You know that little voice in your head? The one that's always sizing people up, always checking to see where you stand? Yeah, we all have it. It's that constant comparison, that drive to compete. For some of us, it's just a quiet whisper, but for others, man, it's a roaring engine. So today, we're gonna dig into where that engine actually comes from and figure out if it's driving you forward or just driving you crazy. So let me ask you straight up, do you think of yourself as a competitive person? Are you someone who really thrives on being the best? Or does the whole idea of competing just make you wanna run for the hills? Take a second and think about it. But what if that answer, competitive or not competitive, what if that's not the whole picture? What if it's just a story you've gotten so used to telling yourself that you believe it's a fact? That's really the core of what we're gonna explore. The idea that this part of you is way more flexible than you think. Right, so from a personality science perspective, being competitive or constantly comparing yourself isn't some fixed trait you were born with. It's really just a pattern of thinking and a pattern of behavior that you've built up over time. And you know what's great about patterns? They can be changed. Now, hold on. Before we start thinking of this as some terrible flaw, it's super important to understand that this tendency isn't inherently bad. Not at all. In fact, it's got these incredibly deep, ancient roots. It's a survival tool that basically helped our species get to where we are today. The scientific term for this whole thing is evolutionary social tracking. And you can think of it like your brain's original social navigation system, like a built-in GPS for group life. For our ancestors living in these small tribes, survival literally depended on knowing where they stood. Tracking where you fit in taught you the social rules. It showed you what was possible, and it helped you get your fair share of resources. It was absolutely essential software. And that ancient tool, it still works for us today. But man, it is a two-sided coin. On one side, a healthy dose of competition is great. It fuels motivation, drives us to achieve things, and makes us persistent. But when it goes unchecked, when it becomes the only lens you use to see your friends and colleagues, it flips to that dark side. Suddenly it's fueling envy, straining your relationships, and leading you straight to burnout. And this isn't just happening in a vacuum, right? It's tied directly to some core personality traits. For example, that constant comparison that's fueled by anxiety and self-doubt, that's basically neuroticism in action. That relentless drive to win, to push forward, that's often linked to conscientiousness. And that urge to put yourself first because, you see success as a zero-sum game, well, that connects to lower agreeableness, a worldview where if someone else wins, it feels like you lose. So the problem isn't the tool itself. The problem is when this really useful survival tool becomes a trap. It's when comparing and competing becomes your default, automatic setting for everything. And here's how that spiral starts. It all happens through something called a reinforcement loop. The best way to picture it is like a tiny snowball rolling downhill. A small, totally harmless habit of comparison starts to roll, and it picks up speed and mass until it becomes this huge, dominant mindset that feels impossible to stop. So here's how that snowball gets going. Step 1, you just casually compare your work to a coworker's. Step 2, you get a jolt, right? Maybe it's a burst of motivation to work harder, or maybe it's a spike of anxiety that you're falling behind. Step 3, either way, your brain goes, aha, that comparison thing, it got a reaction, and it reinforces the habit. And after you do that enough times, boom, it becomes your automatic default way of thinking. And there's a real long-term cost to your personality. As that loop keeps spinning, unchecked comparison is constantly giving you new reasons to feel like you're not good enough, which just cranks up your anxiety and neuroticism. At the exact same time, seeing everyone as a competitor makes it really hard to feel genuine happiness for them, which systematically lowers your agreeableness. And the end result of this whole spiral, well, it's not pretty. It leads to this weird paradox where you can be incredibly successful on paper, but feel totally dissatisfied all the time. You can't even enjoy your own accomplishments because you're already looking for the next thing to measure. It poisons relationships and eventually just leads to total burnout from the pressure of constantly trying to prove yourself. Okay, so that was the bad news. But the good news, and it's really good news, is that you are not stuck. Because these are learned patterns, they can be unlearned. You can consciously, deliberately start to rewire these mental habits. So here are 3 real strategies you can use to start. First, just notice the thought. When that competitive urge pops up, just see it for what it is, a mental event, a little bit of brain static. You don't have to obey it. Second, shift your internal question. Instead of asking, how do I measure up? Ask yourself, am I living my values? That pulls the focus right back to you. And third, actively practice cooperation. Make it a point to congratulate a colleague. Genuinely celebrate someone else's win. You're literally building your agreeableness muscle. And this gets to a really crucial point. It's not about waiting until you feel less competitive. It's about acting differently first. This quote just says it all. Acting like the person you want to be is the backbone of reshaping personality. Your actions can literally change how you think and feel. And that brings us to maybe the most powerful takeaway from all of this. If you've ever told yourself, oh, I'm just a really competitive person, it's time to throw that story out. Your personality isn't a life sentence you're stuck with. It's an ongoing process.
To put it as simply as possible, personality is a pattern. It's just the sum of your repeated thoughts, feelings, and behaviors.
And the most hopeful truth in all of psychology? Patterns can change. With a little awareness and some deliberate action, you can reshape the very patterns that define you. You have so much agency here. So I'll leave you with this question. Forget that old story you've been telling yourself. Thinking about the person you actually want to become, what new small pattern are you going to start practicing today?